Hi, I'm Bradley Clinton and welcome to my YouTube video. Today we will be discussing the life of Stephen F. Austin and the impact he had. Before we get started, this book here is where I got most of my information. It's a biography. It's called The Life of Stephen F. Austin. So now that we have that out of the way, let's just dive right in to his life. He was born in Virginia on November 3rd, 1793. Was the third child of Moses Austin and Mary Brown. A little bit about Moses and Mary. Moses was a businessman and a lead mine owner at the time of Stephen F. Austin's birth. But before that, he was just starting out, trying to make a name for himself in Philadelphia, where he met Mary Brown and married her in 1784. So now that we have a little bit of information about them, let's go back to Stephen F. Austin. He grew up a smart kid. By the time he was 11, he was sent off to school at Bacon Academy in Colchester, Connecticut. He graduated from Bacon Academy in 1807 and went to Transylvania University in Lexington, Kentucky. Graduated from there in 1810 with a certification, and after graduation, he moved back to Missouri where his family was so that he would get a job with his father, and his father would put him in business roles so that he would get exposure to how business was ran. But unfortunately, Moses lost his fortune in the lead mine. So he lost all his money in the lead mine and had to head to Texas in 1819. This is where Austin fell in love with the land of Texas and decided that he would pursue what his father was pursuing, and that is building settlements, buying and selling land in Texas for the Spanish, at the time, the Spanish government. So they got started, and shortly after Moses Austin died, in 1821, Moses Austin died, and his final wish was for Stephen F. Austin to complete his settlement project. As any business, there's always bumps. So Stephen F. Austin encountered his first major bump in 1821. When Mexico gained its independence, he had to renegotiate all his deals that he had prior to the Spanish government. Now he had to renegotiate all those deals with the Mexican government. Another bump that happened along the way was Native American attacks on his colonies. So that kept him from ever establishing a real colony. But in 1830, he was in charge of a thriving colony. So he finally had a little bit of success. But the colony began to have more interest and loyalty to America than it did Mexico. And this was not a good thing at the time because Texas was a part of Mexico and not America. So Stephen F. Austin went to Mexico City to negotiate a few things to see if he could work it out. One thing he was demanding was tax reductions. He thought that the Mexican government was taxing them too much to where they couldn't make a living. So he negotiated that. He also wanted Texas to be separated from Coahuila, which at the time was part of Texas. So he wanted them to be two separate states. And all the while he was in Mexico City fighting for these tax reductions and the separation of Texas and Coahuila, he was also sending letters to the Texans that were waiting on his word and his progress. In one of these letters, it is said that he said, go ahead and start declaring Texas as independent state. But that is not what the Mexican president decided, so he threw Stephen F. Austin in jail. And Stephen F. Austin was in jail for a year and a half without trial or any official charges, so he was just in jail. And he realized Mexico wasn't going to grant any of these wishes and that he lost his loyalty to Mexico. So when he got out of jail, he returned to Texas and decided that the best option for Texas and himself was to start a revolution against Mexico for Texas independence. He was named the commander of all Texan military forces at the time, but due to him having no military background, he was replaced by Sam Houston. But Stephen F. Austin knew that was for the best and did not complain because he was also having health issues with malaria. So, instead of running a military force, he decided the best option for him was to go to Washington and ask the United States to recognize Texas as an independent state and send help their way. So he gained men and weapons while going to Washington and back to help Texas win its independence in April 21st, 1836. After they won their independence, he ran for president of the Republic of Texas, but he lost to Sam Houston. Sam Houston appointed him Secretary of State, and then shortly after, Stephen F. Austin died on December 27th, 1836. So that's a summary of his life and what he did throughout his life. But what's important is why we should not forget Stephen F. Austin. In my opinion, he is one of the founding fathers of Texas, and he contributed multiple settlements, and he also has a college named after him in Texas. So without Texas, the United States would be a whole different country. So Stephen F. Austin deserves most, if not majority, of credit for establishing Texas as independent and then becoming part of the United States. And that is why I think we should remember Stephen F. Austin and what he did for the United States and Texas, and that we should remember him forever and always. Thank you.